Welcome back. Talk Your Game podcast. We just wrapped up week 15. Coming to you guys a little bit late. We apologize. Life events happen. But still coming out with episodes this week. Great week of football overall. We had a matchup. Um, we had a couple of different matchups we were really looking forward to. Great way to end the week as well with the Eagles and Seahawks. We'll talk about that game. We're going to go ahead and cover the Cowboys Bills. And then the third game we're going to talk about will be the Bengals and Vikings. So three really great games. We're going to talk about our weekly schedule. It's going to be a very condensed episode. It's going to be everything all at once. Rankings, and we're going to talk about week 16 predictions. So we'll jump right into it. We're going to go ahead. Might as well get the rant out of the way right now. The much anticipated matchup between the Cowboys and Bills end up being more of a blowout more than a competitive matchup. The game was in Buffalo, and Buffalo coming away with a 31-10 win in a game that pretty much all three phases were pretty much all Bills. It was. I'll let you go on your rant, but all I can really sit there and say, just from overall, before I get into my analysis later, is you had a team that basically was guaranteed to make the playoffs before they even got on the field, and you had a team that was fighting for their life to make the playoffs. And I think you saw the stark difference very quickly, very early on, and hence the result reflects that. So I'll hand it off to you, sir.
Yeah, this is more of a read option, not a handoff. I I was so excited last week when we beat the Eagles that I saw this like fight out of the Cowboys for I said on last week's podcast so long. Like, yeah, we fought like dogs and we smacked them in the mouth and then we go into Buffalo and we get smacked in the mouth right back. like
Mm,
and that's what it was. We got an ass kicking. And it's like I would have been. We've talked to a few Cowboys fans and how they felt about how we lost to Philadelphia earlier on in the season. Like, oh, we were right there, and like we're not that bad. If we had lost to the Bills in that way, where it was kind of a respectable loss, maybe lost by a field goal or a touchdown, I probably would
mhm.
have felt that same way those Cowboys fans felt against that loss to Philly earlier on in the season. But the fact that we just got our butt kicked, like smacked straight up and down the field, it's not. And I know people are going to look at me and be like, well, who do you blame for this loss? It's everyone. It's not, it's like, I'm not going to sit there and rag on Dak. I'm not going to rag on McCarthy. I'm not going to rag on Dan Quinn or the deep. It's everyone played bad.
Yeah.
And when you had the dogs in the middle, the linemen getting pushed around offensively and defensively, that tenacity and fight that I saw in Philly was not there at all. And that's really it. You said it so many times. It's like, dude, they were getting punked in the trenches, and Buffalo was just running all types of ways on them. I mean, it was the
Yeah.
James Cook show. Like literally, it was James cooked. Like it was James Cook, dude. That's what it was. The dude had 179 yards rushing, and then 42 yards receiving with a touchdown on both ends. So like it wasn't anything like super spectacular game plan wise that Buffalo did. They literally saw the biggest weakness in Dallas's defense, which is the run game, which was the same weakness last year. Unfortunately, we weren't able to fix those issues this year with some injuries that piled up throughout the season. And I had mentioned it, I think, on one of the State of Our Fanhood talking to a Cowboys fan. I was like, no, the defense is good, but there is a weakness. And once that team that comes through and kind of focuses on the defensive weakness, it's going to be lights out. And that's what Buffalo did.
Yeah.
They took the script from Arizona early on in the season. They took the script from San Francisco. They took the script from any team that beat us in this entire season was run the ball. Run the ball, run the ball, run the ball, and the Cowboys cannot stop it. We really can't. I mean, I think after let me look at it. Opponents' rush yards per game. The Cowboys in the last 3 games have led up 148 rush yards per game. Obviously, that Bills game skewing it a lot. But on the road, they let up 148.3, and at home they let up 86. So,
Yeah.
man, and San Francisco beat us on the road. Arizona beat us on the road. Buffalo beat us on the road. We got Miami coming up, and we'll get into that debacle later. But we know the Mostert and A Chain train that they run, and that's
Yeah.
scary in itself. As far as the game goes for the Bills and the Cowboys game, I'm just more disappointed we didn't put up a fight. And that's all I can really say. There's nothing I can break down about the game. And you can complain about the refs and you can complain about, oh, McCarthy should have challenged the one turnover that we caused or fumble that we caused. You can say everything left and right down the field, like I said. There was just no fight. And that's the most disappointing part, is that there was just no fight. So for me, the rest of the season, I want to see dogs out there like how I saw against Philly, and I want to win out the rest of the season. I talked to a lot of Cowboys fans between now and the game, and a lot of them are like, "Oh, if we split between Miami and Detroit, we'll be okay." I'm like, "No, man. Like, I want to beat both of those teams, handedly beat those teams, because I don't want to be a rocky team going into the playoffs. When you get some momentum going into the playoffs, that carries over. And on the flip end, like we'll talk about with Philadelphia, when you start struggling, that carries over into the playoffs too. So I want to get red hot right before the playoffs start, so that way
Yeah.
the entire team has confidence. But overall, just an abysmal show out by Dallas against Buffalo, and kudos to Buffalo, man. They didn't do anything, like I said, super special. They didn't get cute. They just played hard nosed, smash mouth football, and they set the tone early on in that game, and it never changed. So kudos
Yeah.
to Buffalo. Disappointing for Dallas.
Yeah. Just, we knew going into this stretch, we talked about it coming into the stretch with the Cowboys, how difficult it was going to be. And I think it's completely unrealistic to sit there and say, all right, Dallas was going to run the table. That would have been great. And it still definitely would have been a possibility. It's not like it was out of the realm of happening, but the issue is not losing, right? Well, I don't think fans, honestly, or at least fans that are realistic, are going to sit there and say, all right, when we lose, everything is just horrible. Not like, it's the way you lose, right? So, like you said, if this was like the Philly game earlier in the season, it's like, all right, cool. We put up a fight, and it was in Philly. It's a hard fought game. There's things that went our way, things went their way, but it is what it is. It could go either way.
Yeah.
But when you look at a game like this, it's like it's hard to sit there and say, well, it can go either way if they come to Dallas. There's okay. I will credit the fact that cool, were the conditions not great? Of course, but you have to play with what you. Both teams have to play
I,
the same scenario, right? It's not like
I
Buffalo has an advantage in that.
I don't mean to cut you off, but I hate that for specifically for this game. We got great conditions in Buffalo in December.
Yeah,
So anyone who wants to complain about conditions, even I was worried about it, but it's like, dude, it was like
yeah,
40 something degrees and some light rain and drizzle. We can't
yeah.
complain about conditions in Buffalo. But
No, yeah,
yeah.
it was just simply rain. That's it, rain. Uh, Compared to what you could have in Buffalo this time of year, you could have had literally a foot of snow, and in
Yeah,
that sense, yeah. Do I give the advantage to Buffalo because they played it plenty of times? Of course, but it was just rain.
it's just rain.
Um, but the thing that concerns me now is now you're about to go up against two opponents back to back that have a very, very good running attack, right? They have very good running backs. And the question is, do you have the offensive line, or sorry, defensive line first, to be able to stop those running games? And then secondly, the one issue I think Dallas has had all season is, I mean, yeah, does Tony Pollard look good? Sure, but the Dallas run game hasn't been overly impressive. They haven't had to do much, right? They've been very complimentary. So when you go in a game like this, where condition wise it dictates you having to run the ball a little bit more, and you're unable to do that, that's a concern. And something I was thinking about last night when we were all just hanging out is, we talk about the any given Sunday thing all the time, right? You got to put your best foot forward. I think that's even more imperative when you play a team that is a playoff caliber team. It's no longer any given Sunday. It's, yeah, you're playing against a team that still has something to play for, right? They're not trying to play for they're not trying to lose or not play well to get a good draft pick. These guys are fighting to be in the playoffs. And that's the thing is, yeah, you can get away with it now. The Cowboys have clinched a playoff spot, but you don't want to go into the playoffs on a negative downward spiral, right? Or even just a spiral that's not um, spiraling upwards, right? You want to go into the playoffs with a lot of momentum, right?
Yeah.
But a loss like this is difficult, and now you're about to go up against two teams that love running the ball. And I mean, don't forget, as good as Jared Goff has been, the reason he's been so great is he has thunder and lightning over there with David Montgomery and then
Jameer Gibbs.
Jameer Gibbs, right?
Yeah.
And then now you're about to go up next week against Achane and Mostert. So,
Yeah.
and on top of that, you got a Tua that has all the weapons in the world around him. So I think actually next week's game is more imperative than the Lions game because
Yep.
it's another test for the Cowboys being away from home. The Cowboys have been great at home, but guess what? If you're not able to tie things, and let's say Philly wins out, you are at risk of not having a home game or multiple home games, right?
In the playoffs, yeah.
Do you really want to go up to Philadelphia, let's say in the NFC Championship game in Philly in the cold, away from home? You don't. You'd rather
Nope.
have as much advantage as possible. And we've talked about the NFC being a lot more competitive, a lot more. They're a lot stronger than this year than we've seen the previous year. So it's no longer where you're guaranteed a cakewalk your first round game whatsoever. And
Yeah.
we'll get into that later when we look at the playoff picture. But I can't confidently sit there and say, all right, if Dallas was matched up with this team, it's an easy win. It's all right. Are you going to come out the way you're supposed to come out, or what? I mean, I was actually looking more forward to the Josh Allen versus Dak Prescott matchup, but Josh Allen only threw it 15 times, and he didn't need to. I mean, your running back puts up almost 180 yards almost. Of course, you don't have to do anything, so it's hard to sit there and make a comparison. But what I did see out of Josh Allen is he had some Josh Allen type plays, way to escape out of the pocket. That touchdown pass to James Cook where he extended off to the right side. Great looking play. We've seen Dak do that play too. I'm not saying Dak is not capable of doing that, but this game he just looked really stagnant. And there's a late game interception that I was bragging about to one of our friends that we were talking to. So I don't know. I don't think this is something where I sit back and like, all right, dude, this is not for Dallas. I just sit back there and say, if Dallas doesn't come out each and every single week with that same fight, this is the result you can expect. Yeah. Dallas is right now not a good enough team mentally to sit there and be like the Chiefs, for example, that can have bad weeks in and out, but at least they're losing close games. It almost seems like when Dallas loses, they lose badly. For example, the 49ers game. So let's hope that this gets kind of figured out. It was unexpected, man. I just did not think the Dallas defense was going to be carved up that badly. But then again, if you're able to run on this team, not have to worry about throwing against the the elite secondary, kudos to you.
Yeah, I don't want to go on too long, but I don't want to focus just on the defense because the defense got carved up like a Thanksgiving turkey. But we got to look. I mean, Dak Prescott had 34 attempts, and I'm not blaming Dak. I'm just saying overall the offense could not move the ball, whether it was Dak or Tony Pollard with 11 carries for 52 yards, right? So, and that goes, like I said, it's all across the board. Everyone gets the blame. McCarthy could have caught some better plays. Dak could have got some better throws. Let's be real. He had one interception, but he had quite a few throws that could have been picked that were deflected as well. The one thing that I'm scared of is we revert back to what happened in San Francisco, and we go back to playing like nice guy football. I don't want to do that. But with the upcoming matchups that you had mentioned, Miami and Detroit, Gibbs and Montgomery, Mostert and Achane, something that I think people need to realize, Miami's the number one rushing team with 5.1 yards per rush attempt. They're literally getting half a first down per rush attempt, right? And then right there at number 4 is Detroit at 4.8. So anyone worried about Dallas or anyone not worried about Dallas coming up in these next two games, I'm more focused on the Miami game right now because Miami's more of a complete team, and we know Miami's going to be able to move the ball offensively, but defensively they have some names and they have some guys that wreak havoc with Chubb, Ramsey. If they get Xavier Howard back, they got some guys over there on the defensive end that can wreak havoc, and I'm more curious to see how can we respond to a high octane offense going against our defense, and when that that offense starts to put up points, how does our offense respond? Can we be just as high octane? We're going
Yeah.
to see the number 1 and number 2 scoring offenses in the league. So let's see how Miami and Dallas handle that. I'm just a little shaky. I think Dallas versus Miami for Dallas is going to be a slugfest, but
Yeah.
we'll find out.
All right, well, that wraps up that game. We'll go ahead and move on to the second game, and a game that we were treated to in overtime as well. The Bengals coming away at home, 27-24 over the Vikings, in a very, very interesting up and down game for both teams. Honestly, not even just the Bengals. I think going into the fourth quarter, if I was to tell you that I was expecting Cincinnati to put up 21 points in the fourth, I wouldn't have believed you at that time. But this is. I guess I'll just do my breakdown real quick of this game.
Yeah.
Jake Browning struggling compared to the last 2 weeks. It wasn't as efficient until that fourth quarter. And here's the thing with Jake Browning is he's playing very, very well. He's playing very, very efficient. He's over 1,000 yards in his first 4 starts with a completion percentage of 75%. And the 51 years they've been recording stats, no one has ever done that. So that's cool. That's cool, right? That's a cool stat that you can throw out with your group of friends or on a podcast, whatever it is. But I'm also realistic in the sense that a lot of those throws, 23% of those throws actually, are thrown into tight coverage. So he's getting away with it right now. And even the touchdown or the pass to Tyler Boyd in the fourth quarter to set them up for a touchdown, he threaded it and it was close. I think that's the one thing that worries me with Jake Browning is he taking a lot of risks because he's comfortable now? Yes, and I appreciate that, right? You don't want a skittish quarterback as your backup, but there will be a time, like when you play, I don't know, teams like Dallas, where that secondary, that quarter of a second that the Vikings were off, you're going to have a guy like Jerome Bland that'll be quarter of a second faster to the ball. So that's the one thing that does worry me. Joe Mixon having a decent day overall. The big concern is Jamar Chase with a separated shoulder. He'll be out next week. But what was really great was seeing T. Higgins finally be T. Higgins. We haven't seen T. Higgins all season long. Had probably one of the most ridiculous touchdowns we've seen all season for the Bengals with a little turnaround. That was absolutely just dirty. But then also the thing that we haven't seen from T. Higgins, and also because the Bengals really haven't done it downfield passing wise, is they've just let him go jump ball for it. Yeah. And, T. Higgins has proven in his time in the league that when it comes to jump balls, it's not 50-50 with him. It's more like 75-25. So am I happy to see the downfield passing? Of course. I don't necessarily like that we're kind of reverting back to the fuck it, someone's down there kind of philosophy. But I will say the one thing for the Vikings is they do have the most turnovers in the league. So they were actually very, very good defensively. They're just having horrible QB problems, and it sucks for them. It was great seeing Justin Jefferson back and doing Justin Jefferson type. I think at least 3 or 4 catches. I'm like, how does this guy do it? So it's great having a talent in the league back, but then also them showing off their talent in Jordan Addison. Justin Jefferson, Jordan Addison, probably one of the more elite combos in the league. They just are not treated to having a elite quarterback like other wide receiver combos in the league. So it sucks for them. The only thing I'll wrap up with for the Bengals is you let Nick Mullins throw for 303 yards and 2 touchdowns on you. Nick Mullins, their third string quarterback. That secondary still is very, very shaky. I know they're young. I know it sucks. But it's not going to be something that's going to get us far in the playoffs, right? We're still fighting for a playoffs, but I just don't know how well we're going to do in the playoffs. And that's realistic. I'm not an unrealistic fan either. I recognize the flaws in our team. We also are losing DJ Reader in the middle, torn quadriceps. He's out for the season. So we're taking hits, which it really sucks for the Bengals, but it is exciting to see us win still. I think it was a very immature thing of a lot of fans to sit there after the Joe Burrow injury and say, let's pack it in. As much as I love Joe Burrow, a championship or Super Bowl caliber team is an overall roster, right? Not just one player. You have one person like Joe Burrow that's an intangible factor, right? That will win you games, close games, but you have a team of talent around him that gets him, to that next level. and we're able to see that with the Bengals. They're not laying down; they're actually fighting. And as a fan, I can wholeheartedly appreciate that.
Yeah, I think your perspective as a fan is right on the money, right? Like you're a team that, man, you lost your star quarterback. You really don't know what Jake Browning is going to give you, especially from what you saw against him earlier on in the season with, was it Pittsburgh? Um, and for him to come out the next, what you said, 3-4 games with 1,000 yards and do something that, since NFL stats have been, recorded, it's pretty cool. It's pretty uplifting, actually. As I was, we watched that game together, which, by the way, that was pretty fun to watch for a Saturday, to get some football on a Saturday.
Yeah.
The one thing I noticed was it went, like you said, it went back to, fuck it, someone's down there, like that T. Higgins touchdown, right? And you had mentioned that Browning is throwing into, tight windows and coverage like that. I don't know how long that's going to last when you have, Pittsburgh, Kansas City, and
Browns.
Cleveland up next, right? I don't know how long that's going to last there. It's pretty shaky when you play against those defenses, and pretty good defenses. So with Jamar out, I expect a lot of T. Higgins production, and I don't know. I feel a little shaky there. But it's a great win for Browning. I mean, going 29 of 42 for 324 yards, and like you said, 3 touchdowns in the fourth quarter. Kudos to the defense for holding up in the fourth quarter, because honestly, they were getting ran all over. Ty Chandler had 23 carries and 132 yards. And for us, like for Cowboys fans, Jonathan Hankins is important, just like you guys, DJ Reader is important, right? So when you miss that big dude in the middle, the floodgates are open, and a lot of people can run on that defense when those big guys are missing. So
Yeah.
That's another weakness that teams that are probably run heavy going on towards the end of this season, like Pittsburgh, Cleveland, and Kansas City, they're going to look at that and be like, oh, Reader's not there, man. Let's send up Pacheco. Let's send up, or if Pacheco comes back, but let's send up Najee and Jalen Warren and Jerome Ford and stuff. Overall, good win. Good win for the Bengals. Let's see how it goes. Getting into the playoffs, like you said, that'd be great. Let's just really evaluate the talent on this roster and see who's talented enough to show up and make plays. And we know that we'll keep that, we'll keep those people around. And when Joe comes back, we know we're confident in that position group. And like I told you when Joe went down, for me, this is just evaluating the roster now. If they make it to the playoffs, that's a gold star. But realistically, we know nothing's going to happen there. If it does, miracle. Really quickly for the Vikings, you got it right on the money. Just couldn't keep a quarterback healthy. You look at the roster: Justin Jefferson, Jordan Addison, who's been a bright spot. You traded for Hawkinson last year, and a guy like Ty Chandler, who has shown up with Madsen out, and Madsen honestly being a little bit disappointing this season. You look at this roster and you're like, man, if Kirk was there, they could probably be a better team than 7-7, which is just unfortunate. And I hope Kirk comes back next year and they keep this roster and the defense continues to build, because I think, oh my God, what's their coach?
Kevin O'Connell.
Thank you. I think Kevin O'Connell has a good. He's a good head coach, and he has the guys all lined up in a good way mentally, and they go into games with the proper game plan and proper mentality. We'll see what happens with the Vikings. I mean, you're not really going to win many games with Nick Mullins as your starting quarterback. You're just trying to get through the rest of the season. So we'll see what happens there.
Yeah. All right. So moving on to our final game of the week, which was also the final game overall. Monday night game, we had the Eagles playing the Seahawks in Seattle. Crazy ending. Seattle driving the ball 92 yards down the field with a Jackson Smith and Jigba game-winning touchdown catch, winning 20-17, scoring 10 unanswered in the fourth quarter. Literally with 2 minutes left in the game, the Eagles had a 94% chance of winning this game. That's how ridiculous this game was. There's a lot. There's a lot to talk about this game. I
Yeah.
think the Eagles overall are, you know, the Eagles overall are on a spiral that the Cowboys are hoping not to be on. Right? They tough loss against obviously the Cowboys last week, and then just an absolute game crushing loss this week to Seattle. Jalen Hurts apparently still is kind of being bothered with an injury, but then also he was sick coming in this game. So I mean, having the runs and then playing football, I can understand. Maybe him not being 100%, but still, if you're sitting there saying, "I'm ready to go, coach," you can't sit there and not that he did, but the excuses some of the fans I make up is, dude, the guy was sick. He's not who he was, or not. He's not fully ready. It's like, well, you know what? There's teams in the league that have backup quarterbacks. So I'd rather take a Jalen Hurts that is 80% than a random backup that no one has ever heard of, right?
Yeah.
They, I mean, the Eagles for the most part of this game had somewhat of a command of this game, right? They weren't blowing away the Seahawks, but at the same time they were, heading to the fourth quarter. It was all right, cool. They can wrap this up pretty easily with one or two stops or a driver here or two there, and they just weren't able to do that. And I think people forget Seattle's still a very, very good team. I know the record sits there and says they're 7-7, but they're still a very good team, even without Geno. And you can't forget that they have a healthy Kenneth Walker back, who's been injured the last 4 or 5 weeks. And then on top of that, you still got DJ Metcalf, who's just putting up ridiculous numbers. And we've seen the emergence of JSN the last 3-4 weeks as well. So I'm happy to see that he's finally being introduced into this offense in a more effective way than he was early on in the season. But for the Eagles, it's just like that secondary is. I know they didn't have Darius Slay; he was out. But that final drive, man, like I know JSN's the one that scored the game-winning touchdown, but more kudos from Eagles to DJ Metcalf.
DK. Yeah, DK. Ooh.
That's just, the dude was just ridiculous catches, right? Over the middle to get him out of their own end zone, and then the deep ball where just, I don't know how he saw it. I don't know how. And then also, sorry, one more, the one where he catches it on the hip.
Yeah,
absolutely. Yeah. Oh my God, dude, that was crazy on his part. So, when you play a team when you play any team, I mean, I think this is the problem the Eagles have had all season long is they're not putting away teams. They're not pulling away. They're not manhandling teams, right? They're just doing what they do, but they're not able to fully have a complete game. And late in the season now, this is starting to hurt you. You're starting to have teams that maybe early on in the season is like, all right, cool, we can take a loss here or there. But now you're playing teams that are fighting for playoff spots. You're going to get every single thing from them. And if you're playing downward or you're not dominating games, this is what's going to happen to you. So the Eagles are on a downward trajectory. God, there was one more thing. I was going to sit there and say I'm very frustrated actually with the last play they had. All right, they had 13 seconds left with 2 timeouts. They're sitting on their 40-yard line. Realistically, all they need to do is get 20 yards. So you have the entire playbook at your disposal, right? It's not like you have to call a play where it's going to have to be some kind of outside route where they get out of bounds. You could have thrown it right over the middle, but you decide to take the deep shot. And I think we rewatched that too, right? Where it's like every single receiver is running a go route. So I don't know. Questionable. I don't know what they were thinking in that last sequence.
Yeah, I think your sentiments of that last sequence kind of encompasses the entire Philadelphia Eagles season. Yeah. Like, so okay, there's a lot to process here with the Eagles. Weirdly, so more than the Cowboys. With the Eagles, this whole season we've been saying, well, they've been winning. They've been somehow winning games. They've been scraping by. Sometimes it's the defensive line was getting pressure and ending games. Sometimes it was the offense being able to close out a game with just a long drive, whatever it may be. All of that's catching up to them, right? Yep. And the few things that I have noticed throughout this entire season, this isn't just a few games. This isn't just about the losing streak. It's been all season long. I'm going to start with Hurts. And this isn't like, oh, I think Hurts is trash or anything like that. He has regressed a little, and I don't know if it's because of the injury, but he's a little jittery in the pocket,
Yeah.
and his footwork there isn't as clean. He's not stepping up, and when he does step up, he does this like weird thing where he like tucks the ball instead of like, holding the ball out and like doing the hop skips. Kind of
Mm-hmm.
just tucks the ball like he's about to run, and if he doesn't run, then you're not really set to throw properly, and it's just an awkward throw that comes out. I've noticed that quite a bit. Um, so that's on Hurts, and his confidence is shaken. Again, I don't know if it's the injury. I don't know if he really. I mean, he has time for the most part. So I don't know what's happening there with Hurts. On the flip end, what he's looking at is a whole bunch of deep routes, a whole bunch of long processing routes that take time to develop. And you're just kind of like, yo, where is he actually supposed to throw it to? Like the sticks are 5 yards away and you're sending routes 10, 15 yards down the field.
Yeah.
And we understand for the big chunk of the season, he didn't have Goddard. And when Goddard came back, they started moving those chains a little bit easier. So I think that helps Philly, obviously, and it helps Hurts. But overall, the offensive design and play calling has been abysmal. On top of that, their biggest threat was their run game, and no one's talking about the Philly run game this year. It's been non-existent. And last year, with whoever was the back, if it was Gainwell, Boston Scott, whoever it may be, they were cutting people up on the lines, and with the run game. And you would think when you trade for DeAndre Swift, who is a good running back, they would do the same thing. But those read options, those inside zone handoffs, they haven't been as successful. And when that run game's not as successful, the read option's not as successful. So it's like a snowball effect of just bad things happening on offense, right?
Mm-hmm.
Talented names across the offensive line, but also not really holding up as well. They're a good offensive line, don't get me wrong, but they're not playing up to the level of the names on their jerseys. Defensively, man, it's like paper thin at cornerback. And we saw with one guy out in Darius Slay, James Bradbury gets torched, and there's nobody else there to help. There's literally nobody else in the secondary. There's nobody else. I think Sidney Brown is the only other guy that shows some spark, but everybody else is kind of just whatever. And when
Yeah.
your pass rush has to do so much work, you can't get big plays because your pass rush is just getting exhausted trying to get to the quarterback every snap, and the quarterback's just, oh, cool, that's open, that's open, that's open. That's how it is.
Mm-hmm.
So a long-winded reasons why Philly is struggling so much, but at this point, you don't want to be having this struggle this late in the season. That's the worst part.
Yeah.
Dallas had it early on. Cleveland or San Francisco had it in the middle of the season. You don't want to have these struggles now, right? And it goes back to what you said about Dallas. We don't know what Dallas is going to do with Miami or Detroit. You hope it doesn't end up being like this, a 3-game losing streak. For Philly, I'm going to end it with I think it's unfair that Jalen Hurts gets to say things like, I don't think we're all committed enough. Just got to turn it around. It's a challenge and that we have to embrace. Just continue to see it through. He says in his quote, I'm trying to read it quote by quote so I don't get it wrong. Been talking about execution all year, getting on the same page, everyone being on the same page. We didn't execute. I don't think we're all committed enough. I don't think it's fair that he gets to say that and doesn't get as much criticism if any other quarterback said it, whether
Yeah.
it's Lamar, Patrick Mahomes, Dak Prescott, whatever. He's a great guy. He says a lot of great things. But to say that your guys aren't committed enough when really you're not the whole problem, but you're part of the problem, I don't think he has the right to call out the whole team. Like, you are part of the problem. Now, he's not single-handedly calling out everyone. He does say that we have to get it together and turn it around. That's great. I just have a problem with we're not committed enough. Like, you guys should be. You were in the Super Bowl last year.
Yeah.
That goes on Sirianni. That your team's not showing that fight that it was last year. and you're
Yeah.
damn well missing Shane Steichen and Jonathan Gannon as assistant coaches and coordinators. So, man, Philly has some major issues, and I think their record doesn't show that. And the only way they can turn that around and fix it is if they just get wins. Just get wins, and then everyone will feel a little bit better. But right now, those major issues are starting to show up left and right.
Yeah, I think it's just that Philly mentality that we praise them for, but now on the back end, it's having that Philly grit or Philly, just uh, I'm sorry for the word, the Philly douchebagness is great when you're winning, right? But it's also it's almost like it's permeating to the rest of the team, right? Seeing Sirianni on the sidelines, like just pissed off at like calls that don't go his way, and just like granted, as a head coach, you're going to do that no matter what. But just like there's just like this attitude around it, and I think you're starting to see that permeate through the entire team. So it's great, yeah. When you have the "fu" attitude when you're winning, that's amazing. But when you have the "fu" attitude when you're losing, it just it looks poor. Is probably the best way to describe it.
Yeah, and we haven't seen those clips. Granted, I haven't seen every single Philly game, but I've watched enough to where like I haven't seen those clips where Hurts and Sirianni are talking on the sideline like how we saw last year, like they're discussing things and figure things out and whatnot. I haven't seen many of those. I haven't seen the communication between coach and QB. I haven't seen the communication between coach and other players. It's kind of just this might be just me my personal bias because I'm a Cowboys fan and I think Sirianni is that Philly mentality, and I'm not a big fan of that. But when you like you said, when you embrace that mentality, you got to be on the other hand and also coach up, man. Like you gotta coach these guys up. And when you're seeing guys like Kelsey make boneheaded mistakes and stuff like that, it's like this entire team is discipline. And it's something weird to say because I complain about discipline with Dallas, and right now Philly looks like the most undisciplined team. So not to say Dallas isn't. They got their butt kicked too, so it's a double whooping.
All right, so yeah, I think we're pretty much in agreement there.
Yes.
I'll go ahead, and that wraps up week 15. So we're just going to go ahead and quickly do our power rankings. We apologize for not having it last week. It was just a lot of hecticness going on. But we do have them for this week. It's a little bit a big shakeup from what we had 2 weeks ago, and that's just how the NFL can be sometimes. I'll go and I think for me, it's the first two make sense, and the rest are just kind of, once again, mine's feelings, so I don't care. Do what you want. First, I have the 49ers. Try to argue with me on that. Go for it. Followed up, I have Baltimore, who's honestly not too far behind the 49ers. Both teams effectively looking like it could be a great Super Bowl rematch from many years ago, which would be kind of cool. Sitting at number 3 for me, a team that we've constantly just kind of, and we talked about it a few weeks ago, that we don't give them enough respect. So I'm trying to here with the Miami Dolphins.
Okay.
I think that position in that ranking is going to be tested this week against Dallas, but they're doing everything right. They're firing on all cylinders offensively. It's great to see Chubb out there being the guy that they brought on for a reason. He was very effective this week, all over the backfield. So Miami at number 3. Number 4, have the Bills. I have the Bills, and it's because honestly, the last 3 weeks they've been trending upward. You play a very good Dallas team and just do what you did to them. So, like you said earlier, this is a team that struggled early on, but now they're starting to find their rhythm, and they're looking very, very good. So, Buffalo at number 4, and rounding out the rankings at number 5 is the team they beat this week, and the Dallas Cowboys. Dallas is still. I can't sit there and say, I'm going to move a team all the way from number 2 down to 5. Or out of the rankings, I'm sorry. Dallas just didn't put up a fight, but we've seen what they do when they can put up a fight. So it's about consistency. Now, if they struggle again the next 2 weeks, they could see themselves outside looking in on my rankings. But Dallas is number 5. Just wrapped it up. 49ers, Baltimore, Miami, Buffalo, and Dallas.
Same teams on my list.
Oh,
different order.
Fantastic.
Yeah, all right. Different order, same teams. First 2 are the same, San Francisco and Baltimore. San Francisco, well, I've said it all year long. If they're healthy, they're the best team in football, and they're healthy right now. So best team in football, San Francisco. Baltimore. I feel like me, you, and a few of our friends are the only team or the only people that really talk about Baltimore. Um, Again, these are just people we interact with. I don't know what's going on outside of that, but I like Baltimore. Personally speaking, I think if I'm just gonna this is my hot take for this. I think Lamar's MVP. If it's not Lamar, it should be CMC or Tyreek.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, Dak Prescott still has his argument if he wins out the rest of the season and plays like how he did basically all season long. But that game against Buffalo really hurt him. But yeah, if you don't have those four guys in your argument, anyways. So San Francisco number one, Buffalo number two, or sorry, San Francisco number one, Baltimore. San Francisco number one, Baltimore number two, Buffalo is number three on my list.
Ooh,
yes. This is very, I know they're not in the wild card. This is very, very determined on if they make the playoffs. But if this Buffalo team makes the playoffs, they are one of the most dangerous. And they're playing complementary football on all levels with injuries, by the way. AJ Epinesa was out against the Cowboys, and their safety Micah Hyde was out against the Cowboys, and they played complementary football. I have Buffalo as number three. Obviously, the run game is there. Joe Brady's doing a great job of
killing it.
Yeah, he's killing it. He's doing a great job of like saying, "Hey, Josh, we're not just taking the ball away for you, but we're also utilizing one of our best weapons on offense." And you're not seeing Stephon Diggs complaining because winning fixes it all, right? And even Josh Allen's like, I just felt like I was the kid that did nothing and got an A on the project. So it's like when you got your quarterback saying that, and people have argued that quarterback is an MVP caliber quarterback. When push comes to shove and you need to throw it 50 times, you got a guy in Josh Allen that's like, hey, I can trust this guy to throw it.
Yeah.
So I like Buffalo at 3. I think Buffalo is a damn good team. And right below that, I have the team that they kicked the freaking bricks out of, Dallas. It's a blemish. It's a tough loss. Again, it's how you act. It's how you bounce back. It's the way you act. And so if Dallas bounces back against Miami, then I feel more confident with them at number 4. But again, they're top 3 offense, top 3 defense. Can't knock them. It is a bad game. So that's why they're knocked down in my power rankings, but not out of my power rankings. Yep. And the team that they're going to play against, Miami, is number 5 on my list. Weirdly enough, kind of like Baltimore, Miami, like I mentioned, and you mentioned, they don't get enough respect. They have talent across the board on both sides. They're one of the most electrifying offenses to watch. And if their defenses need to make a play, sometimes they let those big plays go, but majority of the time they're getting a stop here and there. They're not turnover machines at all. They're not the Cowboys where they're going to strip the ball or get interceptions and stuff, but they make those crucial stops when they need to, and like in the middle of the third quarter or second quarter, that keeps the momentum in their favor. But I just like the roster in Miami, and McDaniels is one of my favorite head coaches in the league, so I really like Miami. So San Francisco, Baltimore, Buffalo, Dallas, Miami. That's my top 5 power rankings.
All right. If you guys disagree, let us know, but I don't care. So
I do care. I honestly don't know out of those 5 who else are you going to put in there. Maybe Detroit, maybe Kansas City. That's it.
Yeah.
There's and you can argue those, but ain't nobody else popping out.
All right, so that wraps up our weekly power rankings, concluding week 15. We're going to go ahead and move on to our week 16 predictions. We are almost at the finish line here for the regular season. For anyone tracking or even cares on our stake bet, 2 weeks ago, me and Sean both ended 10-4, so we're still doing great as far as our percentages go. And that also means that we are still tied up, sitting at 93 and 56, respectively. So these next 2 weeks, honestly, are going to determine. It's not like one person's going to have a ridiculous week and come back. So I think when you hear our predictions this week, they're going to be a little more thought through, hopefully. Because there's a lot more online now. So, all right. So we'll go ahead and start off. Thursday night, we got the Saints heading over to LA to play the Rams.
I really like the Rams. Give me the Rams. I think the Rams are a good team, man.
I do too. Yeah, New Orleans just so up and down. They're too streaky for me right now. So, yeah, give me the Rams. They've been playing very well lately.
I don't know what Derek Carr I'm going to get. So, yeah, give me the Rams.
Once again, we are treated to some Saturday games, so that's great. First one in divisional matchup, we have my Cincinnati Bengals heading over to the Pittsburgh Steelers.
I feel like I'm obligated to pick Pittsburgh because you're going to pick Cincinnati.
I don't think it's an obligation, but
well, you're picking Cincinnati, right?
Of course.
Do we know who's quarterback for the Steelers?
Yes, we do. Mason Rudolph.
Oh hell no! I'm picking Cincinnati. I'm sorry. I'm not trusting it.
Yeah, I'll have Cincinnati as well in this one. Hopefully they can. It's divisional game, so you never know. But give me Cincinnati.
Yeah.
All right. And the night game for Saturday night is going to be the Bills are going to head over to LA and they're going to play the Chargers.
All right, just put Bills for both of us. Come on.
Bills it is. All right. Yeah, that's fair. All right. Sunday matchups. First one we have is Indy. We're going to be, let's see, they're going to head over to Atlanta playing the Falcons.
Atlanta's doing the QB carousel again. I think Heineke's starting this week. Give me Indiana. Indianapolis.
Yeah, Indianapolis. Yes, I like the way they played this previous week against the Steelers. So, yeah, let's go ahead and go Indy as well. Ooh, we're neck and neck here. All right, we have Green Bay heading over to a Carolina team that is rejuvenated after a win. That's the right word.
I think Green Bay is going to bounce back. They had a disappointing loss to Tampa Bay. Great game, disappointing loss. I think Green Bay bounces back.
Yeah, I don't think Carolina is going to be an issue for them. So let's go Green Bay as well. All right, great matchup. Next, we have the somehow still in it and resurging Cleveland Browns heading over to Houston to play the Texans, and I believe CJ Stroud will be good to go.
CJ is playing?
I think so, yeah. It was just a concussion, so I don't see it lasting 2 weeks.
Man. This is the one that's going to be tough. Because it's we question, well, how Cleveland's still playing, but they obviously, their defense is the best defense I've seen all season. But then you have Flacco, who could look bad for 3 quarters, and then fourth quarter he comes in and you're like, hey guys, I'm a Super Bowl champion. Stroud's coming back. It's in Houston. Oh. Give me Cleveland.
Okay. Ooh, let's see. Honestly, that Tank Dell injury is just when you play a team like Cleveland where you just need to have that additional option,
that
over the top option. Yeah.
Yeah.
And you don't have that. And even though CJ has just been great with the way he distributes the ball, Cleveland's going to definitely test you and definitely going to be in the backfield. So you're not going to have a lot of time to make these decisions. And I don't think he has a receiver he can get over the top with. So I'll take Cleveland as well.
Ooh, okay.
Still tied up. All right.
Yeah.
Divisional game. We got Detroit heading over to Minnesota.
Detroit. Yeah.
Yep. Detroit for God. All right. We may be tied next week. All right. Okay. Trashy matchup in the Commanders heading over to the New York Jets.
This is a trashy matchup. Oh my God. Didn't the Jets just get beat scoreless?
Yep. 30-0.
30-0 from the Dolphins. Washington.
Okay. See, the problem is, and then the Jets have weeks like last week where they put up points.
I know what Washington team I'm going to get. I don't know what Jets team I'm going to get.
I'm gonna go Washington too because I think they're gonna be comfortable in the fact that there will be turnovers, but Sam Howell just slings it. So eventually
Yeah.
they're gonna get something, and I just don't see the Jets being able to put up anything. So Commanders as well. Okay. We have Seattle heading over to Tennessee, and I believe Will Levis is still questionable.
Oh, ugh. It's Tannehill.
Mm-hmm.
It's in Tennessee. It's 12 o'clock game. We don't know if it's going to be Geno or Drew Lock, but Walker's back. This is tough. This is really tough.
I have Seattle. So
Yeah, I was leaning towards Seattle myself.
okay.
Yeah, give me Seattle.
Seattle. God. All right. We are not really separating ourselves. Okay. Jacksonville heading over to Tampa Bay. This will probably be one that we can maybe defer on.
Yeah, I haven't really liked what I've seen a lot from Jacksonville. They put up points, but then they shoot themselves in the foot. Baker's Baker. Yeah, you're gonna be entertained either way. I'm leaning towards Tampa Bay, by the way. So
So
I'm
am
going
I.
Tampa Bay. Oh
God
shit.
damn it.
Okay.
All right.
I feel bad not picking Jacksonville, but they haven't been as impressive as I liked them last year.
Okay. All right. Moving on to Arizona and Chicago. In Chicago.
In Chicago, yeah, give me Chicago. I see the gears moving. You're like, maybe I should pick Arizona to get a win, but do I trust Arizona to get the win?
I'm also thinking logistically here. Yeah, give me Chicago. This is not the game I want to separate myself from you on. Okay, this might be the game. Dallas heading over to Miami. In Miami. Sorry, heading over into Miami. This might be the game where we differentiate.
I hate that I don't pick this stuff based on my fandom, and I pick by logic because I'm gonna pick Miami.
God, this is supposed to be the one to be different. All right, Miami.
I'm a Cowboys fan through and throughout, but man, I like steak too.
Okay. Miami's okay. New England heading over Denver to end the Sunday.
Geez, two coaches that just berate their quarterbacks left and right. Give me Denver. It's in Denver, Mile High. I'll take the atmosphere.
Yeah, I'm with you on that. Denver it is. All right, moving to Christmas Day, we're treated all day football. So if you're not around the fireplace unwrapping your presents, you can sit there and watch a bunch of football and not talk to your relatives. So first game, we got Vegas heading over to Kansas City and the Chiefs.
It's Kansas City.
Kansas City. I agree. All right, and then Giants and Philly. I don't think Tommy DeVito's playing.
Oh, really? What happened?
I don't know.
Oh,
I thought he got hurt.
Okay. I haven't kept up with all the news. Okay. Still, give me Philly. It's in Philly. I mean, you can't be that bad, Philadelphia. You're bad. Can't be that bad.
Okay. So we may. All right. It really depends here. All right. So last game,
this is
Baltimore and San Francisco. What I'll do so one person's opinion doesn't influence the other. 3, 2, 1, go, and we just say the team that's on our mind. That way, there's no. I don't want to sit there and you choose Baltimore, I choose San Francisco, just because I want to be different, you know.
Okay.
So, all right. Like I said, 3, 2, 1, go. Then we say it.
Okay.
3, 2, 1, go. San Francisco.
Baltimore.
Oh, thank God. All right. Cool. We have. All right. This game will determine who's ahead starting next week.
I want to say San Francisco, but I'm. This is my ballot, pushing it in for Lamar to win MVP. So that's why I'm picking Baltimore.
It's in San Francisco, baby. I have San Francisco winning this one.
I know. This is my ballot. If he can get away from Bosa and Chase Young and all of those guys and dance in the pocket and still make plays, punch it in. He's the MVP.
I think either way, this game will determine who's MVP. As much as people don't want to talk about Brock Purdy being MVP,
He has
he's in
every
the
right, man.
conversation. So
Yeah.
this game will determine who's MVP. I'm calling it right now.
Yeah. This
Unless
for sure.
CMC just like goes off for like 300 yards and then he vaults into first place in the MVP race.
Yeah. Yeah. I totally get everything picking towards San Francisco's side. And I should have said San Francisco. I know I'm probably going to lose this, but I got to go with Lamar. I just love the way he's playing this season.
Okay. Fair enough. All right. So that wraps up our predictions. That wraps up this week. It's a lot of stuff crammed into one episode, but we're determined to get it out to everyone. So we appreciate the patience for anyone that's made it this far. Playoffs are coming. We're going to have a lot of crazy content that I have brewing in my head. I'm sure Sean has some ideas as well. Or if there's anything that you guys have that you think would be cool for us to kind of do playoff wise, let us know. I think a lot of our viewership came during the playoffs last year. Yeah. So I'm excited now that we have a full rhythm going to be able to experiment a little bit more. So
we'll get into our playoff predictions and Super Bowl winners next week, because then the season's picture is starting to develop more. So we'll get into that. Otherwise, thank you guys. Like Gaff said, it's been a condensed episode. It's been the Talker Game podcast. I'm Shahan. That's Gaff. We'll see you guys later. Peace.